What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another episode of the Smark Out Moments Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, you should know them by now. They have lots of different names, but I call them the names that they actually have. We've got Steven Wago.
Yeah, what the fuck type of intro was that?
It's something that happens when I'm tired. That's what happens. We've got Callum Wiggins.
Yeah, hey. I assume that's my name. Don't know often anymore.
And another name for our next one is the birthday boy. It's Robert DeFelice.
I think that one was directed at me because Tony says my last name right. So thank you, Tony. Happy birthday to me.
Very much so. Hope you like the total package that I sent you.
I did.
So what we're doing today here is we are going to do a Patreon sponsored edition of something that we just did recently. We did the top rope list. We brought that back, dusted that off the shelf for the first time in 5 years, I think. And we're going to do one right over again because guest 5 was so gracious as to donate to the Pick Your Poison tier and request to us to do another one where we're going to piggyback off what we did before. Last time around, we did the top 10 NXT superstars of all time, and then in parentheses, so far, that have been a part of that black and gold brand. And today we're going to be doing the top 10 tag teams in NXT. We had a whole discussion on the last time about whether or not it made sense for the Undisputed era to be grouped all together, and then we decided, nope, Adam Cole needed to be just by himself. Same thing with DIY, where you separate Gargano and Ciampa. But we decided that the Revival made a lot of sense to just be a one, kind of combo act sort of thing. They made it onto our top list for NXT. They were pretty high up. I forget exactly 100% where they were, but if you want to go check out where these things landed, go check out that last episode. But today, we know for a fact that we're grouping everything together because that's the point. So stables are all one pick, and tag teams are all on the board here. Lots of different tag teams that we had options for. Some of them, of course, easily forgettable that we don't remember, and some of them that we, of course, could never forget. But we are going to do our usual thing here. We're going to give our top 10s. We're going to try to figure out a consensus list, and we invite you to do the same thing. Drop a comment below. Tell us your thoughts on our lists. Tell us your thoughts on your list and anything else that you want to chime in about. On the comment section on YouTube is the best way to do that. And while you're over there, hit that like button on the video. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done that already to be a part of this channel. And also ring that little notification bell so that way you know when we go live, when we post videos, any other kind of notifications that you might want to get. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Smark Out Moment. And I'll plug some other things in the future going on later on in this podcast. But this is the way that we do this. We go number 10 all the way around the board, and then we put things on hold if it's way high up in comparison. Usually about like 4 spots or so, we can hold off on that. And then we kind of go 10 to 1 and figure it out as we go along like that. So, yeah, you know what you need to know? Let's dive into this. Number 10 for me, I'll start things off. We'll go in the order of how I have this sheet listed. Number 10 for me was a little hard for me to pick. I wasn't entirely sure who I wanted to get in that spot. I had a couple of options, but I ended up going with War Raiders. Anybody got them higher up on their list where it's worth waiting?
Yeah, we're going to have to hold on that one.
All
I
right.
have not on my list.
I have him on number 10 as well.
Aha. All right, so I will write that down for Wago. Callum's got it higher up. We'll hold off on that one. So, Callum, what's your number 10?
It was very tricky because of just how many good tag teams that I could think of off the top of my head. But I've gone with the Ascension.
We're going to wait on that one.
You gotta hold on that one.
Yeah, you're going to have to hold on that one too. I got him quite a bit up.
Okay.
All right, Rob?
Blake and Murphy. And I'm assuming I'm the only one that has them.
Not on my list.
They almost made my number 10. Number 10 was the hardest one to pick because there was so many I could put on there, and I ended up going with War Raiders.
So I will just make this really quick. I enjoyed the pairing of Wesley Blake and Buddy Murphy. I thought they got even better when they added Alexa Bliss to the package. Unfortunately, as we know, Bliss ended up getting called up to the main roster without them, and they just sort of went away quietly. And I thought there was a lot more potential there because they had, good tag team skills. I thought like them against American Alpha, imagine that. Them against the Revival later on, imagine that. I thought missed opportunity.
I wasn't the biggest fan of them. I immediately thought Alexa Bliss was the standout, and they were just sort of there to kind of flank her, oddly enough, instead of her being there to support them. And it's mostly because of Blake, because Murphy's great. I mean, he's not like the best person ever or anything like that, but he's been pretty rock solid from the start.
But back then, you couldn't really separate the two. They were both pretty much the same fucking dude.
I mean, I get the names confused still every once in a while.
I was amazed when doing my research for it that they are actually still the second longest single reign as a tag team champions.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think the Revival, it might not even be the Revival, but there's one team that has, it's actually the Ascension. The Ascension still has the longest overall reign, like one single reign, but then it's Blake and Murphy under them.
Seems kind of crazy. I thought that they were only tag champs for maybe like a month.
No, they held it for a long, long time. I remember, their big thing was the feud with Enzo and Cass for a while, and then they eventually lost it to the Vaudevillains when they turned babyface. But yeah, there's nothing particularly memorable out of their reign. So I respect the fact that they managed to hold the titles for as long as they did, but I can't really remember anything besides them winning it against the Lucha Dragons and then dropping it to the Vaudevillains, and everything in between is a bit just there.
I'll tell you what I can remember from Blake and Murphy's run. Every time that they retained the titles, I was like, God fucking damn it. That's what I remember from their run.
I remember liking that the Vaudevillains turned face and won. I liked the Vaudevillains. They were one of my options for number 10 that I didn't go with. Hopefully somebody's got them on their list somewhere. We can talk about it a little bit more, but
not on mine.
No, unfortunately not on mine either.
I got you, Tony.
My number 9, because Wego, you had War Raiders number 10. We're holding on that. My number 9 is The Authors of Pain.
Gonna hold you on that one.
Hold on that.
Alrighty. Callum, your number 9?
I'm pretty certain I'm going to be the only person that has this on this list. Grizzled Young Veterans.
Not on mine.
Not on mine,
but go ahead, but great pick.
I wanted to include a team from NXT UK in it, and just as a spoiler alert, Mustache Mountain is not on my list.
Ooh, wow.
Which is a bit surprising, because I think that they're the better team out of the two of them, but they have never held the NXT UK tag team titles. They held the NXT tag titles for a hot minute. But I think the Grizzled Young Veterans are a really good unit. I'm a huge fan of Zach Gibson. I think he's incredibly charismatic and he's an excellent heel. And James Drake, even though he doesn't have a huge amount of... Reportedly. But I kind of go with the idea that he's got a lot of... James Drake doesn't have a lot of personality, but he has a lot of fire and explosiveness in his actual in-ring work. He's got a lot more in-ring charisma than he has outside of it. But that's fine, because if you've got Zach Gibson carrying you on the mic, then you don't really need... You just need to pull your end in the ring, and I think that they did that really well. They held the NXT UK tag titles for a long time. And yeah, and they did well enough that they've been moved over to NXT. Of course, the coronavirus thing kind of put pay to that, but I'm pretty sure they would have had a bit more of a standout role in NXT's tag team division if that hadn't have happened.
I'm positive they would have beaten the Broserweights.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And they're a great tag team, and I do actually like them a little bit more than Mustache Mountain, which is ironic because Mustache Mountain is my number 9.
We're going to hold on them. Wego, you're number 9?
Well, you brought them up. It's the Vaudevillains. For a while, these guys were a massive part of NXT back when a lot of the tag teams were carrying the identity of the brand. They got a lot of talk time. They got a lot of in-ring work, which was just fair. It wasn't standout, but their character work was some of the best in the company.
I loved their entrance.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of the best things that they had going on at that time. And Aiden English was like a reliable in-ring worker. Simon Gotch was a lot of fun. They were a different type of act. They were the type of thing that felt like it could work in NXT because it was like kind of not like low rent, but
indie.
Yeah, it was like it had that sort of feel where you could play around with things a little bit better. So if they would have came up on the main roster immediately, like just out of the gate as the Vaudevillains, they would have been eaten alive. But you put them in the NXT crowd, and the crowd's just kind of like, yeah, all right, like we'll embrace these guys, and that worked for a little while, and it would have worked on the main roster too if they would have actually gone a little bit further into that, and if Simon wouldn't have had like issues backstage with people and stuff like that. But I think that they deserved an actual tag team title reign in WWE. At least they got the NXT one.
I went back and revisited their debut match in NXT, and they were over from the second that they walked in. Like, the crowd just immediately embraced the gimmick. They were clapping along with the entrance music. I think it was that top point where they changed the entrance music, where you couldn't get involved and clap along. They were dead at that point for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they shouldn't have changed that.
And they were part of that like intimate NXT where the crowd really was making these nobodies somebody worth watching.
Well, what was cool about that version of NXT and why it's largely is my favorite is because what you said, it was intimate. The fans, like, it felt like it was those fans' NXT. It was their guys.
And they're the ones that made Bailey. They're the ones that embraced, like, even a character like a Bull Dempsey, where they were counting, he and Baron Corbin, they're counting how long the matches are and stuff.
Yeah,
Baron Corbin got over in NXT, enough said.
Yeah, it felt like a place where people were just organically getting over in front of crowds, whereas now you kind of just seem to be told who to like or who to dislike, and it kind of just bleeds together really a bit too much.
Yeah, I don't hear anybody going nuts over Kona Reeves.
He's the finest, Tony.
He's something, all right. I think we're probably gonna maybe hold on this one, but my number 8 is Enzo and Cass.
Not on my list.
Only off by 1 spot, so go ahead.
Yeah, they're my 8 as well, so go ahead.
Oh, okay. So that's your number 7, way to go?
Oh, so for my number 7,
no, I mean, is that Enzo and Cass for you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll put that on the list then. We might as well talk about it now. Yeah, Enzo and Cass never won the tag team titles, which is insane. Never in WWE, not NXT, not the Raw, not the SmackDown. This act was so fucking over that you could main event NXT with them easily, and I don't think anybody would have been like, oh, come on, it's a tag team match. I have no idea why they didn't get bigger.
Over that the trend like actually was over on the main roster too.
Mm-hmm.
That never happens.
They got Carmella over from being a character that debuted as Enzo's hairstylist to the point where she could win. They got
Blue Pants over.
Oh, the Blue Pants stuff, yeah. I mean, Leva Bates, she's got her own merits, but like, just have her come out wearing blue pants, and it's just like, I don't know, it's a Blue Pants. How about that? And people are just like, fuck yeah, all right, Enzo and Cass gave her a nickname, we're gonna go with that. And they were fun as all hell. And they had like no right to be as fun as they were because of how Enzo and Cass ended up working out. But like, even a feud against Sylvester Lafore and Marcus Louis was fun, and that had no right to be fun either, because that's, it's not working with like the best in ring talent or anything. But geez, you get the whole SAWFT stuff out there, and the crowds are going crazy for it.
Yeah, I remember when Cass and Aiden English were having that sing-off and stuff like that. Like they had tons of charisma between the two of them. Obviously, Enzo was the standout, but they were as close to this generation as ever got to recreating the New Age Outlaws.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Definitely.
And man, if you would have taken Enzo's mic skills and applied it to Cass, that dude would have been a world champion.
As much as I know...
As long as he didn't get trapped in a bathroom.
As much as I know Enzo and Cass have had shitty reputations, their act is so over that if they came back for like a Raw reunion, people would be doing the whole SAWFT. So, because it was just so over at the time.
How did they not win the NXT tag titles?
NXT
on a wrestling-based act.
NXT's always had a bit of a reputation of having the titles stay the longest time on heel tag teams. And so that doesn't prevent them from getting a cursory run. I think if they would have had a run, it would have lasted between 2 takeovers, and that was it. But even that would have been something to give them.
It was probably a lot of times they seem to like to have the babyface just chase for a real long time. It's probably the preference of whoever's booking.
Yeah, that seems to be Triple H's thing, because the longest reigns seem to go to people like Blake and Murphy, the Ascension, the Revival. They're the ones that get the long reigns. Whereas, like, DIY only had one reign and it lasted from one takeover to another. So they give the baby faces the short reigns and they let them chase for a while, because the money's in the baby face chasers.
Mustache Mountain had like a 2-day reign, right?
Yeah, it was 2 days, but obviously they spread it out over 2 or 3 weeks because of the tapings. But yeah, in reality, it lasted 2 days.
I mean, it goes to the singles titles too. Ember Moon doesn't beat Asuka. She wins the title. She loses it to Shayna Baszler. Baszler holds it forever. Drops it to Kairi Sane, who barely holds it for like a month or so, and then like Baszler holds it for another practically a year.
I mean, look at the guy booking it. It's Triple H, and he basically wrote the book on the heel holds the title for the longest time.
Yeah,
he beats every single babyface until eventually losing it. So he thinks that's what people want to see, and a lot of times it does until it's the only thing you see, and then you're desperate for something else to happen at that point.
So that's 8, 8, and 7, and they're not on your list at all, Rob?
Correct, they're not on my list at all.
So who's your number 8?
My number 8, and I got a feeling we might have to hold on this, but is the Street Profits.
Not on my list, actually.
Not on my list.
They're my number 7, so we can talk about it now.
All right, look, they did not have long enough with the NXT Tag Team titles. Otherwise, they would have been higher on my list. They were a very fun act, got over more on the wrestling side of things and Evolve. But if they would have had those tag team titles for longer, instead of finally getting them and being moved to Raw, I think they'd be well above the list. And Montez Ford is going to be a star. Angelo Dawkins is one of the better athletes WWE has. They just didn't get enough time to shine.
It's weird what they did with that, because the Undisputed Era held those tag titles forever, and it seemed like it was a guarantee that the War Raiders were going to win them. Once they finally won them, it was a little bit too late for the War Raiders, and then they seemed like they were, as soon as they won those titles, they were pretty much earmarked to go to the main roster. And then it became, okay, well then who's going to beat the War Raiders, because the War Raiders can't hold those titles any longer. They seemed like they set up the Street Profits, but then they waited for them too. So they did the same kind of thing, where by the time the Street Profits won from the War Raiders, then it became the type of thing where it's like, all right, well, War Raiders drop the titles, let's crown new champions. Street Profits end up winning that, the typical like Ember Moon, Shayna Baszler type of situation, or Ember Moon and Asuka. And by the time the Street Profits win those titles, it becomes, but then they're going to go up to the main roster too. So neither of those teams got as long of a reign as they really would have if they wouldn't have just come up to the main roster. But then again, I mean, they made the right call. Street Profits on the main roster make more sense.
Yeah, I'd say I have them at number 7, so it would be my next pick. But they just have such great chemistry together. They're effortlessly charismatic. Montez Ford, like Rob says, is going to be a big deal going forward. And obviously, I kind of just like it because finally Angelo Dawkins found a gimmick that got him over. Because he'd been with NXT for so long with the Shoot Nation stuff and stuff that he was just a floating guy in the tag team division being beaten by the actual stars. Then he found Montez Ford and managed to elevate himself upwards. He's not going to go any further than this tag team. I think we can all pretty much accept that. But I'm just happy that he got this moment to be in a great tag team. And Montez is just great as well. He's a great babyface comeback guy. And they're one of the few acts that have really gone to NXT onto the main roster and really maintained the course of the very. So I won't say they've exploded and become, but they're clearly big deals on Raw. And they, at least under Heyman's stewardship, while he was there, they seem to be being pushed as really big deals.
Credit to Dawkins to keep that whole stir in the pot thing going. He had it for 3 different tag teams, and it was just nah, one of these days that's going to get to the point where I can do it, and people aren't going to laugh at me.
I just remember that visual. In the same way we were talking about Enzo and Cass, how over they were. I just remember that moment when they won the NXT tag titles and just celebrating in the crowd. And obviously now that'd be incredibly reckless, but at the time, in a much better time last year, it was just such a really good, feel-good, organic moment. These guys were just absolutely beloved by the NXT crowd.
So we are on Wago's number 8.
This is where I placed Mustache Mountain.
We're still going to hold off on them.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't imagine you'd be the one that's championing their cause.
yeah, you're. What are you doing here, Ty?
I'm championing their cause, I guess.
I knew one of the guys, and I don't even think is that fucking good.
Well, if we're talking about one guy, I kind of agree with you. It's pretty much a one-sided thing, but still. Before I say my number 7, just throw out another quick plug here. One of the reasons, well, the reason why we're doing this one is because of the Patreon I mentioned before. Guest 5 donated to the Pick Your Poison tier. To explain that a little bit more, if you don't know it already, the Pick Your Poison tier is one where if you donate to that tier, you get to request whatever kind of special feature or gimmick or post on the website, podcast, whatever you want to call it, that you would like us to do. That's kind of like a direct sponsorship type of thing. And, you know, he funded this option. It was this or fantasy booking an all-time NXT supercard of some sorts, and we might do that next month. But if you want us to do anything in particular, that's a way that you can take advantage of that. Even $1 goes a long way to help out everything when it comes to this. So if you've got the spare buck and you want to toss it our way, that'd be greatly appreciated. $10 and up gives you access to the Patreon exclusive episodes where we've had things like the review of it was Vengeance for Paul Heyman's
Vengeance and Global Warning. The
Global Warning's the most recent one, yeah.
Yeah, when me and Rob are reviewing these pay-per-views that take place in between the Paul Heyman SmackDown series we're doing.
We have those up there. We've got some other just oddball discussions. A lot of times it'll be like 2 in the morning and I'll just be like, yo, Rob, you want to do a Darkcast? Like that kind of thing. Just so, you know, if you want to listen to those, you can check them out on there. $10 and up gives you access to that. And if you want to do more stuff on the Patreon side of things for Fanboys Anonymous, that's another option too. Fanboys Anonymous is the geek culture website that has different topics about movies, comic books, video games, TV shows, any of that kind of stuff on over there. So fanboysanonymous.com is where you'll find that stuff. And if you want more, patreon.com/fanboysanonymous. So my number 7 is Imperium. It sounds kind of strange to put them up as high as number 7, but if nobody else has them, I guess I'll go ahead and talk about them. What do you guys think? You have them on your list?
Not on my list.
No.
Just some dudes in their underwear. Pass.
I love the Imperium tag team as a concept where they've got this sort of vibe of like, they're not Nazis, but like,
That's a good start.
You get this vibe that they're like, with the whole like the mat's sacred to them, and that they've got this, you know, European kind of union sort of, we're going to attack people, and Walter's our big Austrian dude at the top. Like, they just scream villain to me in a way that a lot of other stables and tag teams don't. And when you get Fabian Eichner and Marcel Bartel in the ring, I think that they're as good as any other tag team that we've got on this list for the most part. They're just maybe not as flashy. They're the current tag team champions. Very happy about that. The group itself has a lot of stock with NXT UK in a way that I don't feel like NXT UK would work as well without them at this point. Wolf even got an upgrade when he went over to there because he was so much better as another member of this team than he ever was as part of SAnitY. I can see why people don't have them on their list. I have them at number 7 because I feel like they're a big deal that is only going to get bigger. But I understand why it's not on other people's lists. Callum, your number 7 was Street Profits. We talked about them. Rob, what's your number 7?
I have a feeling we're holding, but American Alpha.
Yeah, let's hold on them.
Yeah,
you're going to have to hold for me.
Wago, your number 7 was Enzo and Cass. So we're back around to me again. Maybe we're going to hold on this. I don't know. My number 6 is the Ascension.
Hold.
Alrighty. Callum,
I have
number 6?
one above.
Oh, you got them for number 5? I'll add them in there.
So number 6 for me is the Authors of Pain.
I got him at number 5, but I guess we can go ahead.
I have him in this slot too.
As number 6?
Yeah.
So I had them at my number 9, but that means we all at this point have had them. So yeah, let's talk about them.
Okay, so I just really love this act because once they came up to the main roster, well, not the main roster, up to the NXT roster, I just thought, okay, these are just two big green dudes who are going to march all over this brilliant NXT tag team division that we've formed, where it's just great match after great match. I think they came up pretty soon after. Obviously, they took the titles off DOY, but they were coming right off the midst of these great matches between the Revival and American Alpha, and they were just. I just saw them as just another Ascension, two big dudes, don't do a lot of moves, just destroy people. But as the time went on and under the stewardship of Paul Ellering, they just started having really good matches, being these powerful brutes, just throwing the baby faces around all over the place. And yeah, I just think that they are an example of a really mean monster heel team that really works. I think it's the same thing that WWE tried to do with the Bludgeon Brothers that didn't really work out quite as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just think that they exceeded my expectations, and that's why I pushed them up so high on this one.
Authors of Pain are kind of like if you could take the natural disasters and make them really good workers. Like they're just these hulks of guys that you can see beating the shit out of anybody and you believe it.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I've actually had that comparison of who, when I was deciding who I was going to put them on this list. They're kind of like War Raiders in as much as they're two big guys, but they actually feel like more of a menace and a force than those did. So that's why I have them so high on the list. The whole act just is fun. Paul Ellering was a great addition, and I remember the War Games match, and I think they were teamed up with Roderick Strong, and they had him in the vest.
Mm-hmm.
That was really fun. It was one of my favorite War Game matches.
That seemed like such an odd pairing, but it worked really, really well.
Yeah, and I, like Callum said, they come right after Revival and American Alpha are tearing it down and having great technical matches, and you get worried because you're like, oh shit, it's just going to be, plotting big man matches, but they were a fantastic duo, and I think the stupidest thing they ever did was get rid of Paul Ellering. I get that he didn't want to do the travel on the main roster, but he understood how to, champion these big men, and I thought they were great, and then they went to the main roster, and fuck all happened. But their run on NXT was one of the most successful big man tag team runs in my lifetime.
The main roster stuff really screwed them over because then they were doing the whole thing where it's like involved in Drake Maverick and peeing on things and stuff, and it's a shame that didn't work out better. They still could though. I mean, like they're sitting on the sidelines. Akam, I think, is the one. Razor, I think, is injured. One of the two.
It's always a case like it just seems like they're here for a couple of months, and then one of them gets injured, and then they're out of it because they don't work as singles guys.
Yeah. So that's number 6 with that. And Rob, what's your number 6?
SAnitY.
Not on my list.
Yeah, you're not getting that from me.
Nah.
Wow. Okay, I'll make it quick then. I really enjoyed the entire stable on NXT. I thought Eric Young, this was a perfect role for him. I thought Eric Young and Wolf as a team worked very well. And this is another one of those, like, loved the gimmick, loved everything they did. That first War Games match with AOP and Strong and the Undisputed Era was such a fun clusterfuck of a match. And they get to the main roster and nothing happens. So once again, you're just left with these fun memories of NXT, and they seem a lot less than in retrospect because main roster fucking killed them.
It's a sad day when Eric Young makes a top 10 list.
God, Jesus Christ. What did he do to you?
I found SAnitY very, very one-dimensional. They didn't have... I know obviously they went into the main roster and they were dead pretty much on arrival, but I kind of don't blame the Rise for that because I just don't know what they were. They always came in to say like, "Oh, we demand anarchy" and stuff like that, but they would just come out, have matches, maybe do stuff that was a little bit more hectic and crazy. The only one that really embraced the quote unquote insanity of SAnitY was Nikki Cross.
And their music was fucking terrible.
That's why Nikki Cross is the one that's been successful, because she's like the one that actually seems like she's a little deranged. I mean, Alexander Wolf would come out, and you were just sort of like, "Who's this dude?" And Killian Dane would come out, and you're like, "Ah, wow, shave." And
Jeez.
Eric Young would come out, and he'd maybe cut a promo every once in a while and stuff like that, where he's got the voice that kind of has something interesting about it, but he's Eric Young. He's tiny compared to a lot of other people. He doesn't seem that threatening.
Every time Eric Young spoke, I was just like, "Oh yeah, TNA sucked."
It's sort of like it's really notable if like your biggest feud on your entire time in NXT was with Ty Dillinger. It's kind of like all you really need to say about it, really.
Wrecked.
They had some potential, but like, you know how I like to merge people, and it's like I said earlier, like if you take Enzo's mic skills and apply it to Colin Cassidy, he would have ended up being a bigger deal and all that. If you took the gravelly voice of an Eric Young and maybe the in-ring work of a Killian Dane, he's probably the best out of the bunch or so, depending on, you know, what the match is and stuff. But Sawyer Fulton was a part of this originally. This was like one of his other attempts. Like if that would have worked, if he would have not gotten injured, then he would have been that role instead of Killian Dane. And he's a tall guy, and he's been successful elsewhere. He's in Impact, I think, you know?
Yep.
Or he's Madman Fulton or whatever. So he seems like he's kind of trying to do whatever that is. I've never seen any of his work like that, but it seems to be working okay, well enough that he's sticking around with that. I wonder if he would have been in there, if that would have helped a little bit, or if at least that would have helped his career a little bit more.
It's quite funny because when I see SAnitY, one of the things that it reminds me of is Solomon Crow.
Yeah, it seems like he should have been a part of that.
Well, it's one of those things where I just feel like, oh, people think that this gimmick is good because it's in NXT. And then I just look at it, no, it's not actually good. It's just really one-dimensional and boring.
Well, I was not a fan of Solomon Crow. So.
No.
Yeah, neither was I. He was terrible.
So we're over to number 5 for me. That is where I get my... What's that?
Solomon Crow was terrible, and he still is.
That's where I go with my Mustache Mountain pick. So Rob and Wago already have them lower on their list at number 9 and number 8, and they're not on Callum's. So
no.
Mustache Mountain to me, they had a short reign, yeah, but the short reign is weird, and I don't know why I think by now they would have been NXT UK champions. Gallus boys are not on top of my list. They're not on my list at all, but they've been holding these tag titles, I think, a lot longer than they would have had this whole COVID thing not happen. Because originally the NXT TakeOver Dublin thing, that I think would have potentially maybe gone over to Mustache Mountain or so, but maybe not. I mean, maybe they would have had some kind of feud with, like, I don't know, The Hunt or something like that. Another tag team that's not on my list. But Tyler Bate and Trent Seven work really, really well as a tag team. I feel like they are one of those acts, kind of like an Enzo and Cass, where, yeah, those two didn't win the titles at all. Mustache Mountain only won them for a short time frame, but they don't need them to be entertaining enough to justify their spot on the card. They're really solid in the ring. Mostly Tyler Bate gets a lot of this praise. I'm not as big a fan of Trent Seven. They're a fun act. They're something a little bit different. Got over pretty quickly. So I'm a fan of them. I have them higher up. I'm sure that they'll either be on the lower end of this list or maybe not on it at all. But hey, you know, that's the point of the top rope list. So what's your number 5, Callum?
American Alpha.
They are my number 4. So
They're my number 4 as well.
All right, so let's talk about them then now. Because I think that covers everything, right? Because Rob has them at number 7. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, there's really not much to say other than the fact that they were just two great technical wrestlers. Jason Jordan have already had a few attempts as tag teams. I think with Ty Dillinger was the final one that he had before he tried to spread out, find another tag team partner, and Chad Gable was there, and their skits where Gable was trying to get Jordan to like him and be his tag team partner was just a lot of fun because Gable has a lot of personality they don't use to his full effect on the main roster, but that's nice.
His personality? I thought he was just short.
And they just clicked. There was obvious comparisons with Team Angle or the world's greatest tag team, however you want to look at them, and obviously one of them ended up being Kurt Angle's son. So there was a lot into that, but they were just such a great tag team, so many great just wrestling matches and combinations. They were just throw people around. Jason Jordan was one of the best hot tags in the business at the time they were working together. They come up to the main roster, and for a while it looks like they're going to be pushed for a bit, and they win the SmackDown Tag Team titles pretty early on, but it just falls apart from there. As is the case with a lot of NXT tag teams or NXT superstars in general. But yeah, and you just have to talk about the feud with the Revival, and that is probably one or if not the best tag team feud in NXT's history. So
the reason they're my number 7 is I enjoyed their work a lot, but again, they didn't get a lot of time with the tag titles or in NXT. Like, you look at it now where you've got these guys like Gargano, who's been in NXT forever, and it's almost like, okay, you've run out of things to do, go somewhere else. Gable and Jordan were not there that long, and then they get called up to SmackDown, and at least unlike, all the other teams we've mentioned on this list, they did well on the main roster, but then they just broke them up for the fuck of it and had Jason Jordan go to Raw and be Kurt Angle's son. And by the way, that's never been called off, so that's canon.
Yeah,
And...
oddly enough, they keep playing into it. Like, what was the thing that they had done not that long ago where it was something like Kurt Angle was doing some kind of
a baby? So he's just like, yeah, I'm here with my family, and here's Jason Jordan.
Yeah, or something like, it's like, that's good. Why not? Keep going. Make it to the point where, like, if Jason Jordan ever comes back or something like that, that he's like Jason Angle or something.
I would do it. Like, it worked very well. They had a great tag team finish. The Grand Amplitude was awesome. And I just wish they were a team for longer.
It's so weird to look back on the way that American Alpha started, where Jason Jordan was bouncing around between different tag team partners, and Chad Gable just comes up and he's just got a towel that says like Ready, Willing, and Gable or whatever, and he's just sort of like, come on, tag with me, be my friend. And I remember, like, during that time, I was sitting there thinking to myself, I don't know who this Chad Gable dude is. He seems a little small. He might be a little freaking obnoxious, but I like him. And then it became like, oh shit, these two can have some damn good matches. And I don't really remember them having any bad matches, for that matter.
Neither do I, and a lot of the reason why I have them so high up, despite them not having the longest title run, is just everything they delivered on was great, to the point where American Alpha as an act was one of the main reasons I tuned in for NXT.
They were really firmly in that whole the tag teams steal the show type of thing too.
Yeah, they really helped establish that as, like, these guys, they come out, they open the show, they get things off started, and then okay, we're in for a good show because these guys are starting off in the tag team matches.
Yeah, they were killing that. So that's we've got it at 7, 5, 4, and 4. We have snaked back around to Callum at number 4.
Okay, the War Raiders.
So
yeah, you're gonna have to explain why this one's so high.
That's on number 10 for Wego and I. Rob, do you have War Raiders?
Don't have them.
Alrighty, so we'll talk about them now.
Okay, so the reason I have the War Raiders so high, and it's partly due to the fact that I can't deny that it's a slight influence from their work in New Japan and in Ring of Honor, because they were just so great as a tag team. And I think it's just due to the fact that they're in my mind, they're AOP, but they're even better workers. And they can do so much more in the ring. You obviously, Hansen is so flexible and he can fly around the ring as well as just do all these other great stuff. They're both a mixture of just extreme power and a lot of flexibility and speed as well. So if they were used perfectly, and I don't think they were used perfectly either on NXT and definitely not on the main roster, but if they're used perfectly, they're just the ultimate tag team because they blend the speed and quickness of some of the smaller, more agile tag teams with the power of teams like AOP or the Bludgeon Brothers or Natural Disasters or however you want to do that.
That's why I liked AOP more than them, though, is because they know they're big men and they work more like big men. I get that there's I don't know. I just like my big men to wrestle like big men, and Authors of Pain come across as a more legitimate tough guy act to me.
I can definitely see that side of things. I just feel like the War Raiders, I really enjoyed their entrances when they would come out. It felt like a big deal when they would come out and there was the Viking drums and things on those lines. The one thing that really sours me on their entire time in NXT is the fact they didn't drop the titles before they left. But that's another another story. That's not their fault. That's just them deciding to relinquish it rather than have them drop it to the Street Profits, which probably should have happened.
Are they still Vikings now?
Kind
The
of.
Viking Raiders.
One of them's pretty cute, apparently.
Yeah, the other one not so much.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's odd that that's become one of the things that I actually really like throughout the year. Like, that might be like in the running for my favorite catchphrase that's happened for this year.
I mean, the one thing that they're really missing is that they don't have one that's a real talker, which is why they probably would have needed a mouthpiece, and that would have helped them out probably a little bit more in the same way that AOP worked with Paul Ellering. But I think just actual in-ring wise, they're one of the most versatile tag teams that has ever been.
I like them. Their NXT run to me was a little bland, and nothing they've done on the main roster has helped that. So I just can't say, like, out of all the fun teams that have been cycled through NXT, that they were up there for me.
I kind of feel like War Raiders, if you combine their NXT and their main roster stuff, they go higher up on my list. But their time in NXT, when they were getting to the point where they were really, really becoming like amazing, that's when they left. And
Exactly.
That hinders them on mine.
I think
I do like the name better instead of the Vikings.
Yeah, that's true.
That's part of the reason why I actually put them higher in that, is because the reason why I don't have the Vaudevillains on the list is because by the time they'd gone, they'd pretty much fizzled out completely, and it kind of soured me on the entire act of putting them on there. Whereas the War Raiders left when they were at their peak, essentially.
That's true. The Peking Vaders.
Vaders?
Vaders, yeah, well, combined Vikings and Raiders there. To have them come out dressed up as Vader, that'd be even better. So the War Raiders, the War Machine, the Viking Experience, the Viking Raiders, the Viking Prophets. Now they're the what did I call them?
The Peking Vaders.
Why not?
It's like Vader in the showers.
Yeah.
Peking Vader.
What's your number 4, Rob?
My number 4 is DIY.
I got him higher.
I've got him higher, but I have him at my number 3. So
I have them at 3 as well.
I have him at number 2.
All right, we can hold them then for a bit.
yeah,
We can hold on.
Hold on a little bit for that. Wago, your number 4 was American Alpha.
Yeah, or whatever else you said.
The Peking Alphas. Well, I'm tongue-tied here. Let me just throw out the merchandise shops, TeePublic and Redbubble. Go ahead and pick up some t-shirts or any other types of merchandise, any different designs that you're interested in. Just go ahead and check the catalogs for Fanboys Anonymous, A-Mango Tees, and Smark Out Moment. And if you see anything you like, pick it up, and then you get it. That's kind of what happens when you buy goods and services. You pay money, and then you get things. It's an exchange. We are all the way over to Rob's number 3.
The Ascension.
So I already had them as my number 6. Calum has them at number 10, and Wago's got them at number 5. So it's time for us to talk about them now.
All right. I think that they are an example of, again, that intimate NXT setting in the beginning. They got super over. If they went back to NXT today, people would love it. It was just the hottest thing for quite a while. And the whole with the kicks, and they did the total elimination. They had a great NXT run, and I can't say anything bad about Connor and Victor on NXT. And then they're like, oh, I know, we'll make them the Road Warriors, only more lame, and we'll have these old dudes beat them up, and they're dead.
That is one of the most ridiculous examples of taking an act that, I mean, Connor, when he first came into WWE and he was part of the competitive NXT format, was awful. He's doing that gimmick where he's like a rat man, and he can smell cheese, and he's hanging out with Alberto Del Rio. It made no sense at all. And they managed to rehab him enough to have him be a part of this great tag team. And they just murdered them on the main roster. Like, it's as if they had a legitimate gripe against him. Like, if what they would have done, shit in somebody's sandwich or something.
this had to be very early in the whole NXT era where it was like, I'm mad that these guys got over. Let's just fucking bury them. Like, why else would they do that? They had Scott Hall, who doesn't even wrestle, beat these guys up. The APA beat them up, and I think the Outlaws beat them up too until they finally let them get a fluke win against the Outlaws or something like that.
Yeah, they pretty much brought him up to the main roster to lose to the New Age Outlaws. It's really
wanted
strange.
to say their entrance on NXT so goddamn good.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
When they panned up like that, it's one of my favorite entrances that they did. And a lot of the entrances in NXT look cooler because of the smaller setting back then than they did on the main roster. And it's just, they were stripped of everything when they went up, man. It was a murder.
So in my perspective, the reason why I had them at number 10 is a cursory nod to the fact that they're the longest reigning NXT Tag Team Champions. The reason why I had them on my list at all, the reason why I didn't almost put them on my list at all, is because I thought the act sucked. They couldn't wrestle very well. They were always wrestling squash matches. And when I think of NXT and tag teams, I think great match after great match after great match. I've never seen an Ascension match being anything better than okay.
I mean, you tell me that you want to see particular people in the ring, I'm not going to pick the Ascension over a lot of these other tag teams for sure.
I can understand why they're high up there because of how big they were, and they're one of the first, they're the first real great NXT tag team in terms of just the reaction and them being positioned as such. But I just think that I go back to that area of NXT and I don't want to watch anything to do with them because it was just a bunch of squash matches. And yeah, that was what people wanted to see at the time, but it's just going back and just looking at it was just really, really stale and uninteresting. And the reason why I think they failed on the main roster is not because they stripped away a lot. It was partly due to the fact they stripped away the presentation and got rid of put them with a load of legends that beat them up. It was also the fact they just weren't very good.
Remember the whole Cosmic Wasteland?
Yeah,
that was the best thing they ever did. Was
such a weird
Stardust.
pairing. Weird to think too. You go back to when Ascension was in NXT, and it's like, oh man, it's gonna be like the next big tag team type of thing. And Cody Rhodes is like, oh, this guy's gonna be really great, whatever. Then it becomes like, okay, then now Stardust and the Ascension doing their thing on the main roster. Where are they now? Well, Cody's running a company.
Actually, the best thing about them was them appearing in the Fashion Files.
Oh, that was fun. Yeah,
they were good. That and at Southpaw, they were pretty fun on Southpaw.
Yeah, well, basically everything that wasn't the Ascension was probably pretty good for them, in my mind.
What are they calling themselves on the Indies?
The Awakening, and they're just going to be a
Still
big Con and Vic, basically. So yeah, they're basically still the Ascension.
We got to get out of this era where everybody's just big blank, big hungry, big E, big red. There's like 1,000 bigs.
Waste their time signing them.
Big Jordan.
Well, he's big. A whole lot of people shouldn't be. So he should be the only one named Big. Da Big Kato. Number 3 for Wago. What do you got?
Undisputed Era.
We're gonna hold.
Yeah.
My number 2. So yeah, might as
well. I mean,
hold
my number 2 as well, but. We all know who our number 1 is. I don't know where we can start with the number 1.
No, because Tony's saying that because he's got them at number 1. He's got the Revival at number 2 because he doesn't know what he's talking about.
That's true. I have my Revival at number 2 and the Undisputed Era at number 1.
Well, you're fucking wrong, but okay.
Yeah, you're very, very wrong on that. We'll fun to discuss it.
I completely, I love everything the Undisputed Era does, and even I would put them at number 1.
Well, we've got 3 teams to talk about now. So you've got DIY, the Undisputed Era, and Revival. So
we all, we're all, everybody but me has Revival at number 1, right?
Yeah, because we have common sense.
And we've got Undisputed Era and DIY, so we know what number 1, number 2, and number 3 are essentially going to be.
At least that worked out.
Yeah.
I mean, I might as well just copy and paste that over. It's Revival number 1, Undisputed Era number 2, and DIY number 3. That's
sounds good. Yep, sounds right.
I'm good with that.
Before we're even talking about them, we already have that figured out. That's a lot easier in some ways.
So should we talk about DIY and go up to the others?
Yeah. Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, they've got a 4, a 3, a 3, and a 2. And that balances out to number 3, which is very respectable, especially considering who number 1 and number 2 are. DIY. Horrible
Like, they
name.
were, yeah, especially considering they were two guys that you could really consider a singles like capable of having singles runs and have. So really like awesome that they're this high on our tag list as well.
Yeah, they weren't even brought in as a tag act like TM61 was, or the Authors of Pain were put together, from the start or anything like that. Like, they were just two indie guys that they just kept bringing back enough to where they were just kind of like, bring that Ciampa guy and that Gargano guy, and then you guys are, popping up a lot. How about you start tagging together a little bit, and then they become just intrinsically tied together forever. They become like Triple H and Shawn Michaels in a way where they pretty much are kind of Triple H and Shawn Michaels for NXT. Separately, singles, we talked about them before, but tag team act, god damn, are they good.
Some of the best tag team matches I've ever seen is DIY against the Revival. And those matches, I almost want to say, because they were kind of a thrown together team, DIY had no business having that good of a tag team run. But the match at Brooklyn, and specifically the match where they win the belts in Toronto, what a great tag team match. 2 out of 3 falls with the Revival. Go watch that on the network. That is a fantastic tag team wrestling match.
The fact that they can work together and against each other so goddamn well as well, it's incredible. You don't see, because there's so many times I've seen like a tag team get split up and they'll have a match and it just stinks out the joint.
Yeah, the best babyface tag team that NXT's ever seen. They were just so over with the audience. The roof went off the place when they won the titles. The way they won it was such a brilliantly booked finish, because it had so much drama and excitement when they made both members of the Revival tap out at the same time. It was just a really beautifully told story. They only held it for a couple of months before the next takeover, but it didn't really matter. It was just the chase was the bit that really got the crowd invested. They could have lost the titles immediately afterwards, and it didn't really matter too much. And then you have that brilliant ladder match with AOP. Who'd have thought AOP would be able to put together be involved in such a great tag team match with Ciampa really badly injured as well. They still have a brilliant match, and then they have that turn, and they're now the hottest rivalry in NXT as well. That's the sign of how intrinsically they formed together as tag teams. When one turned on the other, it became the biggest thing that everyone was talking about. I mean, they main evented that show.
Yeah, they overshadowed the champion.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was at the point where the tag team titles was the most important belt in the company at that point.
Then you got the Undisputed Era at number 2. Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly. You throw in Roderick Strong and Adam Cole. You can't go wrong.
I specifically have on my list for it. My tag team for the Undisputed Era is Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong. It's not Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish.
And that's interesting, because Red Dragon is
great.
One of the best teams.
They're a fantastic team. But Roderick Strong, I think, is pound for pound the best worker in NXT. And I'd like put my hand on heart and say that, because I just think he can work with anyone. His matches are fantastic. If he was taller, and he had a bit more personality.
See, I can't consider him even in the top 5. He's not that good of a seller, to be quite honest.
I think that I guess I can argue.
Look at his face. He's got like a blank ass face half the time.
That's true, and we have brought that up in like the Sexy Superstar thing, that he's just generic wrestler number 2, like just mod. But I just think that his work rate and the stuff that he did with Kyle O'Reilly, I always recall the best Undisputed Era tag team matches were him and Kyle O'Reilly against, whether it was the matches they had against
not much AOP and stuff like that. Lorcan and Birch.
Yeah, Lorcan and Birch, or against Mustache Mountain was those two. I believe that was the case anyway.
I think you can just put anyone with O'Reilly and you're pretty good.
Oh yeah, O'Reilly's my favourite member of that team by a country mile, so he has to be part of it anyway.
O'Reilly is the guy that surprises me the most all the time, because it's, Adam Cole's driving the whole thing. If this was like the standard deviation of the quartet title situation where you get one main eventer, one mid-carder, and one tag team, you'd put O'Reilly and Fish as the tag team, Strong as the mid-carder, and Cole as the main eventer. But you said pound for pound, do you think that Roderick Strong's the best performer? I got to go with Kyle O'Reilly. I feel like he is just like out of the gate he didn't seem like he was impressive to me, just as some guy named Kyle O'Reilly. I'm like, that's a bland name. He's just some dude. And he's another standard white milk toast type of, grab him from any kind of indie type of thing. And then it became like, oh shit, this dude can wrestle really fucking well. And then he's got some personality too and whatever. And he's a lot of fun. And the weak link, I think everybody can kind of agree, is Bobby Fish.
Yeah, he's also the oldest dude, right?
Yeah, he's the
Yeah.
oldest. He's the one that's been injured on the shelf more often than the other guys.
Yet at the same time, when he's in there and he's working with some other people and he's in a tag team match, rock solid. Like,
But yeah,
if your weak link is as good as Bobby Fish is, it's a hell of a
And
stable.
Kyle O'Reilly's the only guy that can play the guitar on the title belt, so he's the
Yeah.
best,
Yeah.
He plays it much better than Hulk Hogan ever did.
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think I remember like a couple of years ago, I almost wanted to make him my Superstar of the Year on our award just because I was just in love with how well he was, just how much charisma he was showing, just how great the tag team division was at that point. So, I mean, he's the consistent one that just holds the tag team side of their act all together. Like, as long as he's in the tag team, you can put him with anybody and it will be a great match.
If we're gonna compare him to the Horseman, he's the Arn Anderson of the bunch. He's the consummate professional. He can work with anybody, and yeah, and then he's got all that personality, and he's playing air guitar, and acting like a shrink when Roderick Strong doesn't want to go into trunks. And the Undisputed Era, as a whole, is fantastic. Their work in the tag team division is second to none, and that's why they keep them around, because, well, God, you four guys are anchoring the whole thing, so we don't want to lose you.
If he's the Arn, Cole's the Flair, is Strong Tully?
Strong is Tully by default, or just whoever you want to put the mid card guy in. You could say he's the Lex Luger and make Fish the Tully.
Yeah, depends which iteration of the Four Horsemen you're really talking about, really.
And how much you want to compliment Roderick Strong on that particular day.
So then that brings us to number one. Then that's the Revival. We sang a lot of their praises in the last episode, so we kind of already ran through why they're great.
Sing their praises again.
They're great. I mean, I have no problems putting them at number one and Undisputed Era at number two, because the Revival is that good. They're just that fucking good,
Yeah.
Yep. Not really much else to say there. A tag team that was completely made in NXT, went from nothing into being just like very well known and established as a tag team act, just due to the quality of their in-ring work. They're just a classic heel tag team that really, as the name suggests, they revived the time when tag team wrestling was like the most over thing in the world, where just basic fundamentals, have great matches, keep the babyface cornered for as long as you possibly can, make them want the hot tag, and then as soon as the hot tag happens, sell like wild for these guys, because that's how tag team psychology works. And when, as I've said in the past, when tag team psychology is at its best, it's better than anything a singles can do.
Best tag team in the last 10 years. Same thing that I said when I had them on my top 10 list earlier, and same thing again. Just the goddamn best thing we've seen to come around in a goddamn long time.
I goddamn agree.
Oh, goddamn. Goddamn. So we've got our one and our two and number three. That means we got to figure out 4, 5, and 6 essentially have to be in some fashion Authors of Pain, American Alpha, and Ascension. They're the other ones that have 4. They are kind of all over the place a little bit, but it looks like the American Alpha team has the most highest up overall. They've got 2 number 4s and a number 5 and a number 7. The Ascension has the number 3 and a 5, a 6, and a 10. So American Alpha is definitely above Ascension. Authors of Pain have 5, 6, 6, and 9. I would think that it would go American Alpha, Authors of Pain, and then Ascension.
I'm good with that.
Agreed.
Yep.
So let's move them over here. Let's move
Going a
that
lot
there.
faster than the other one.
So then that brings us to number 7, and we've got 3 tag teams that have 3 votes apiece. I would think that that's 7, 8, and 9. Those are Mustache Mountain, Enzo and Cass, and War Raiders. War Raiders is the current highest up on anybody's individual list. It's Callum at number 4. They also
It's surrounded by
have
two tens.
yeah, some two of the 10s. Mustache Mountain is a number 5 from me, and an 8 and a 9.
So they're probably ahead of.
So they're maybe a little bit ahead of the War Raiders. Enzo and Cass are
2 8s and a 7.
2 8s and a 7. Well,
So Mustache Mountain,
War Raiders are that Enzo and Cass.
Yeah, I think so.
Trying to figure it out like mathematically.
Yeah, that's
23.
because War Raiders being a number 10 and a number 4, that kind of balances out around to like a number 7.5 or so.
Mathematically, it should go Mustache Mountain, Enzo and Cass, and then War Raiders. Because combined, Mustache Mountain have 22, and Enzo and Cass have 23, and War Raiders have 24. So.
All right, and that would, by default, the last one has to be the Street Profits because they have 2 votes, and the rest have 1.
All the other ones, let's see, it's Vaudevillains, Blake and Murphy, Grizzled Young Veterans, Imperium, SAnitY. Yeah, so Street Profits are the only other one that number 2 or higher. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the ones that got left off, I'm not too upset about.
Yeah.
I mean,
fine. Yeah, it's fine.
I had some other ones that were in the running. Like I'm a big fan of Breezango, but they were mostly main roster. The Broserweights were fun, but they got cut short because of the COVID stuff. Sky Pirates are fun. They never won the tag titles.
The Broserweights are on my list for a little bit, but they ended up getting knocked off.
Yeah.
I almost put the Iconics over Blake and Murphy just because I really enjoyed their pairing on NXT, and I thought they were a lot of fun.
I put them a little bit more on main roster overall too. The Iconic duo.
Yeah, like the ones that came closest to me. Like if I had extended the list, it was like 11 was Vaudevillains, 12 Mustache Mountain, 13 Blake and Murphy, 14 Sky Pirates, and 15 Broserweights. And then there's just a load of other ones after it. I'd forgotten about Heavy Machinery as well until you sent over that list of things. I didn't completely forgot that they were on NXT first.
There's them. There's British Ambition. There's Lucha Dragons. They were fun for a little bit, but not a top 10.
I remember the Lucha Dragons being featured all the time, and I just wanted them to go away.
Yeah, they were kind of one of those examples where it made sense to me that they were tagging up and that they had those tag titles, but ultimately I can't remember anything that happened with their reign.
They were very Blake and Murphy for me. It was just a constant, please just have someone else be here, not you.
It's funny because they're the ones that lost it to Blake and Murphy. The person that just transitioned from one Blake and Murphy style tag. It was just 2 people. Sin Cara had failed on the main roster, and so had gone down to NXT, and Kalisto was just the other mask guy on NXT. So, so yeah, just put them together, and they're the ones that you choose to beat the Ascension.
Yeah, so that's our top 10. We got from 10 to 1, Street Profits, War Raiders, Enzo and Cass, Mustache Mountain, Ascension, Authors of Pain, American Alpha, DIY, Undisputed Era, and The Revival. Another rock solid list, I think.
That's a hell of a list.
And Johnny Gargano's been killing it on these lists.
Yeah.
You figure Gargano, Ciampa, Cole, and The Revival are really just stealing the show. Eventually, if we end up doing another list, I don't know what we could really make a list out of anymore. We did the women's division, the men's division, the tag team division.
It's like with Cole, Gargano, and Ciampa doing so well, you'd almost imagine that the entire brand was built around those 3 guys for the last 3 years or so.
You might think.
Well, I mean, I did plan on having Lars Sullivan as part of my tag teams.
Oh, you mean no love for the great team of Hideo Itami and Finn Balor?
Yeah.
Oh, we talked about it.
That's not no. Alrighty, well, I'm curious what your lists are. If you went ahead and you made your list, what was the whole 1 to 10 for you? Did it compare? Did it turn out completely different than what we had? I highly doubt it. I don't think that there's a whole lot of people out there that are just sort of really putting some people out there like the BFFs at the top or anything like that.
Oh my god, we didn't even discuss the Forgotten Sons. Because they're just so forgettable.
We forgot about
Yeah.
him.
Of course we didn't. They didn't do anything.
I just waiting for someone to just key in the comments like Forgotten Sons #1, and they're just like, okay, this you're not paying attention.
If you would like to see more of these in the future, then let me know. I think that we've done this well enough that this concept definitely works really, really well, and it's a fun, different way of doing things where it's not quite a Mount Rushmore, but it is a little bit. It's we're debating some different spots and stuff. It's I like doing the whole debate type of thing. I think that's a lot of fun, and I don't know when we'll do them again. Now that we have done 2 of these, I think we probably will put it on hold a little bit. But maybe later on in the year, maybe we'll do something around like Survivor Series or so and do some kind of a top 10 based off of that, or the Clash of Champions next month. Maybe we'll do something about that. I don't know. If you have any suggestions, though, drop them in the comments below. I've plugged pretty much everything that I need to plug on my end, except for some other things that I'll loop back around to. But Rob, go ahead and toss out some other plugs.
All right, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DudeFelice. Check out Fightful.com. Check out WrestleZone.com. Fightful Select for all of your inside scoops. And check out the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast. But to tell you more about that, here's Callum Wiggins.
Yes, every Saturday on the Smark Moment channel, wherever you listen to the podcast, whether it's through YouTube or any of the other podcast feeds, it is the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast, where me and Rob go back to the period where Paul Heyman was the head writer for SmackDown. We've just reviewed quite a few episodes. I think we're on to episode 9 roundabout now. It's roundabout episode 8 or 9. It's close to that period. We've also done extra episodes, like our reviews of Vengeance 2002 and Global Warning. And we're going to be doing a review of SummerSlam 2002 as well over on the Darkcast. If you're a part of the $10 tier, you'll be able to get access to those ones as well. Make sure you check out all the articles on smarkomoment.com, including the power rankings, my weekly contribution, and follow me on Twitter at Wikimeister14. And I hand you over to Wago.
Hi. So you can follow me at Stephen Wago on Twitter. I'll have links pinned up once I get my streaming account set up with my wife, and we're going to be streaming a lot of games together. Bye.
I don't know why that struck me as so funny.
It's very polite. He's like making sure people are involved with the plugs.
I just kind of pictured like a little kid or something being like, "Hi, I'm Steven," or something like. Well, we've got a lot of stuff coming your way over this week because this is a double pay-per-view week. So that means the next time you're going to be hearing from us is going to be one of the 2 pay-per-view points that we've got going on. We've got NXT TakeOver 30 and we've got SummerSlam 2020. We're going to do our predictions for both of those. Probably either Tuesday and Wednesday or both on Wednesday. I don't know. We have to figure out our schedules and stuff like that. But we have those coming up, and then after that, we're going to have the hot tags, which on Friday night, we'll get a chance to address any matches that they add to those cards as like a last-minute type of thing of, well, now we have to update our predictions, that kind of a thing, and whatever else happens in the hot tags we need to break down for the TV shows or any kind of news or gossip or whatever. Then Saturday will be that TakeOver show. We'll do the post show after that. Sunday will be the SummerSlam post show after that gets done. And then the week after that, we're going to go into the payback stuff. So payback, pay-per-view points all around, and maybe some other things. I don't know. Kind of depends on how we do what we're planning on doing. That'll happen around SummerSlam or so. So stay tuned. If you have that little notification bell rung, then you will get those notifications. If you follow us on Facebook and Twitter at SmarkOutMoment, if you follow the website, if you check out the YouTube channel, you're subscribed. If you follow me at Tony Mango, and if you just start clicking around, then you will see plenty of different things happening, whether it's the podcasts or the things that aren't podcasts that are just editorials and stuff. I got my Bleacher Report stuff. I got my e-wrestling news stuff. Constantly working. Hopefully you're enjoying it. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode too. Thanks for listening to this, everybody. But for now, this has been another Smart Out moment, and we're being counted out.